Hello, everybody. Lisa Sabaniak here from lifelikeyoumeanit.com, coming to you live for our September book club. So, today we are looking at the Abraham Hicks book, Ask and It Is Given. So, I hope that you had a chance to read this book. It was absolutely amazing. I adore this book. And if you did, then I would love for you to jump into the comments and share what your takeaways are from the book. If I'm talking about how my interpretation is and you think, oh, I've got something to add to that, I would love to hear from you. And that is live or in the replay. And if you haven't read the book, then I would like you to jump on in as well, because as I go through some of the key things, the key takeaways from this book, that you might have some questions because you haven't had a chance to read it yet. So by all means, go ahead and ask. Now I'm going to pull up my notes here because I have taken a lot of them and I've narrowed them down. If you have had a chance to read this book, then you know it's basically in two parts. So the first part is them reminding us of things that we have long forgotten being in human form. And then the second half of the book is basically 22 different activities that we can do in order to raise our vibration so that we can manifest anything that we want. Basically, get out of our own way. So we don't have enough time. We've got an hour. We don't have enough time for me to cover all of the different strategies, those 22 strategies. So I'm going to cover a few of them that were really, really interesting. Some of them are ones that I have not tried and I think would be really useful for a lot of you. And I've tried to also select a few that are a big range. So how they've organized them is basically some of them are for if you're already feeling pretty awesome. And then a bunch of others are for you're not really feeling all that great. You're maybe stuck in like disappointment or anger or resentment in that kind of realm. And then some of the others are when you really feel quite crappy, honestly, right? When you're depressed and you're feeling guilty or shame or things like that. So that's one of the things that I really love about this book is the basis of manifesting. And I've said this in many other videos as well, but they've done such an incredible job of really honing in on this, that the basis of manifesting is not the asking, right? We ask for things all the time. The basis of manifesting is to get ourselves feeling like we deserve to have that or like it's already come to us, because there's basically three steps in this process of manifesting. The first step is that we've got to ask, right? We're pretty good at that, right? Oh, I'd rather have this, or oh, I really want that, or we're good at that. We've got that one covered. The second part is basically the universe's job to be able to respond and manifest whatever it is that you are asking for. And basically what they're saying is it's there. Everything that you've ever asked for is there. The getting it to you is not your job. That's the universe's job. The third step is your job. So first step, your job to ask. Second step, sit back and know the universe is going to provide it. And then the third step, the reason why you've asked for many, many things in the past and you have not got them is because you're not vibrating at the same energy rate as the thing that you have asked for. And so oftentimes the book really points out that, when you're asking for something, so say you're asking for a new car and you're saying, oh God, I've done my research and I really love this particular car over here. And oh, I would look so good in this car and I would feel amazing in this car. And oh yeah, every time I drive this car, I would feel like I'm successful. And right, all of these things are very high energy, if you will, right? They're all about the car. They're all about wanting the car, seeing yourself in the car, being successful, all of these positive things. And even just me using this as an example, you probably saw in my own face and my own body language that I was actually getting excited and resonating with this new car of yours. But sometimes, in fact, most of the time, when we are asking for something, we're not actually doing it that purposefully. And what we're actually doing is we're saying, God, I need a new car because mine is crap. Or I am so embarrassed driving my car. I want a new car. Or I want this car because I'll feel successful because right now I feel like a pile of garbage. Right? So it's a contrast that is there, that while we're putting out the request for the new car and the universe is hearing that and responding to that, we're also putting out the request essentially to have a piece of crap car that we feel shame driving, makes us feel like we're not successful, it breaks down all the time, or whatever else we're complaining about with the car. We're also putting that out. So now both are going to come to us. We're going to be able to receive, this is step 3, right? Receive that we are manifesting based on what we are vibrating with. So if we are vibrating at the same energy rate as the new car, because we're really focusing on seeing ourselves in this car and how it feels, this is so amazing, then we are going to get that new car. But if what we're really vibrating with is the crap that we feel with this car while we're wishing and hoping and saying we want that car, then that's the energy vibration that we have right now. And that means that we're going to allow that into our lives. So we're basically going to manifest our car breaking down even more and feeling like even worse garbage in that car and never get our hands on that new car. Not because it hasn't been provided for us, but because we are not vibrating at a level that matches it. So we are not allowing it. So step 3 is the allowing, the receiving of the manifestation. So let's just rewind a little bit and let's just talk about, so I've said a lot of kind of deep things here and just assuming that you watching are totally on board. And so I'm talking about, universal energy and putting this frequency out there and having it matched, and the universe is always providing. And so your first question might be, especially if you haven't read this book, who the heck is this Abraham Hicks guy? And, how do they know that this is what's going on? So this is a really interesting thing. So the Abraham / or dash Hicks are 2 separate entities. Hicks is a person, Esther Hicks and her husband Jerry Hicks, right? They are real life human beings going through a normal human experience like you or I. But Esther, in her life experience, has found herself actually channeling the energy from the other side. And she channels a collective consciousness that they call Abraham. And so Abraham Hicks is born, right? So it's Esther's interpretation of what Abraham, a collective group of consciousness or beings, spirits, souls, whatever you want to say, is her interpretation of what they are saying to her, because they don't speak. They're in energetic form. So they are not speaking to her like I'm speaking to you. It is more of a feeling or a thought or a knowing that Esther then has to translate into normal words that she would use. So Esther's doing all the typing out of this book, and Abraham is providing all of the knowledge. So he describes, or I'm going to say he because Abraham is a male name, but obviously a collective group of souls is not really gender specific here. But Abraham writes in the very beginning of the book to help us understand who it is that they say Abraham is not a singular consciousness as you feel that you are in your singular bodies. Abraham is a collective consciousness. There is a non-physical stream of consciousness. And as one of you asks a question, there are many points of consciousness that are funneling through what feels to be the one perspective. Because there is, in this case, one human, Esther, who is interpreting or articulating it. So it appears singular to you. We are multi-dimensional and multifaceted and certainly multi-consciousness. So I know that this can be, especially if this is the first time that you have, been exposed to anything like this can be quite earth-shattering of a what now? But if that is what ends up holding you back from this, then I just suggest to you that you remove that part from your mind and just focus on the actual message. Because for those of us that do believe in spirit and life after death and the other side and collective consciousness and a source point energy and whatnot, this is just acts as knowing this who Abraham is, just acts as more evidence for us. And so for those who don't believe or are unsure or maybe never heard of this before and need a little bit of time to kind of, absorb this information and come up with an opinion, that's totally fine. You don't have to really understand or believe in order to get the message of this particular book. So the book deals a lot with trying to explain to us why, when we are trying our best to manifest things, we are seemingly not successful in all facets of our life. So talking about being well, for example, so being healthy and fit, right, and feeling good compared to being unhealthy or disease ridden and not feeling good. And what they point out throughout the book is that there is no good versus evil. There is no source of evil. There is no source of disease. There is no source of unwellness. There is just a accepting of wellness flowing through you or a non-acceptance of it. It's always flowing. It's always there. It's always accessible. But sometimes in our human form, because we don't look at this in this way, because this isn't part of our human experience as far as we are aware, we don't always allow wellness to flow. And so that means that we don't always feel good, right? We are overweight or underweight. We are, unhealthy. We are riddled with disease. With all different types of things going on with us that are not in balance. And so it's not that we have accepted evil into our lives, or it's not that we have accepted unhealthiness into our lives, if you will, but it's more the lack of acceptance of well-being. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. And it goes hand in hand with the whole manifestation of the car example that I was giving you, that it's always there. Whatever you're asking for is always there. It's just that we have to be able to allow it into our being in order to actually accept it. And the allowing part is where we actually fail a lot of the times. And it's just simply because we are not there. We're not vibrationally there. And so what they suggest is to really pay attention to your emotions, right? So they say that your emotions are basically, they call them our emotional guidance system. And they say that before we reincarnated into this life, that we actually, as spirit, as just energy, made a decision that we would actually incarnate into this existence, and that our whole purpose is to actually be able to manifest our own world, manifest everything that's going on around us, that is the goal, that is the purpose. And in doing so, we are experiencing extraordinary joy. So that's what we've all decided to do when we come into human form. And we come in, they say, without any fear or concern whatsoever, because we have an emotional guidance system, our emotions. And what they say our emotions really are is our indicator for how in tune we are with source energy, or with our higher selves, or with our inner being, or whatever you want to call it, God, it doesn't matter. The more connected we are and the more we are allowing the flow of that energy in, the happier we will be. The more we'll be experiencing things like joy and excitement and happiness. And the more that we are blocking that flow of energy so that we are not as connected to that source energy, the more we will be feeling more bad. Right? Literally just is bad versus good, right? If you're feeling good, however you describe that, then you are in tune. If you are not feeling good, then you are less in tune. And depending on how bad you feel is how far removed from that connection you are. But they do point out that there is no such thing. It is completely incapable for you to completely cut yourself off altogether. So there is always a connection with your higher self, or with source energy, God, whatever it is that you want to call that that power. So that to me is really lovely. I like that quite a lot. But so they really, the book is really going a lot in depth about our emotions, and they actually provide an emotional scale, if you will, and that ends up being one of the 22 tasks, or as they call them, games, to play in order to get yourself vibrating at a same level as that you were trying to manifest. So let's talk about that then. So essentially, you're trying to manifest something, you've asked for something, the universe has provided it, and now you are providing resistance to getting it because you are not actually at that level. So you are focused more on the what you don't want with the old car that you have, rather than what you do want with the new car that you have, or that you want rather. And so as such, you have attracted both of them to you, but the one you're going to see and you're going to be able to access is the one that you are focusing on the most. Bad car, right? So they do want to point out throughout the book that manifesting can happen very, very quickly once you get quite used to this. However, we don't have to worry about each and every one of our thoughts. That just because we think something doesn't mean that we're manifesting something. So if we have a negative thought, about ourselves or about somebody else or a situation or whatever, we don't have to worry that that's going to come to fruition. But if we start to really think about that, and it starts to become a dominant thought, and it starts to maybe even become so much of a dominant thought that it becomes a belief, then this is where we would be manifesting. And so that's essentially where we need to get with the things that we actually want to manifest. We need to turn it into something that we can really believe can happen. So the first thing that they point out in respect to the emotions is that wherever you are on the scale of emotions, the energy that is available to you is very narrow. It's very closed around that immediate kind of zone that you are in right now. So in other words, if you're at the very bottom of the scale, which is where depression is, we've got 1 to 22. So at 22 is depression, and you ultimately want to experience joy, which is a 1. You're not going to have access to joyful thoughts, and you're not going to have access to joyful emotion because you're resonating, you're vibrating down here at depression. So you will have access to higher thoughts and emotions that can pull you out of depression, but they are not at the other end of the spectrum. So let me just explain what I mean by this. I'm just going to pull up for myself this emotional scale so I don't miss anything. So now they do remind us that each person is different here. So as I list through the different emotions on this scale, we're not all going to resonate with all of them. And there might be some emotions that we think, like for example, the word happiness isn't on the scale. And I don't often think of the word joy but I do often think of the word happiness. And so there'll be lots of times where you might find the same sort of thing in the words that I'm using here. And they say that's completely normal. It's not that you have to, know and resonate with the word hopeful, but that there is another emotion that you can connect with in that same kind of slot, if you will. So at the high end of the spectrum, where you are likely to manifest whatever it is that you are thinking about, we have the emotions of joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation. So these all vibrate at the same type of frequency, if you will, that group of words or emotions. Okay, next below that is passion. Next is enthusiasm, eagerness, happiness. Okay, so I lied. So happiness is on there. I missed that the first time. Isn't that funny? The next is positive expectation, belief. You can see how these are all still positive, but I'm moving down the list. So as I'm moving down the list, I'm actually moving farther away from my connection to point source energy or to God or higher self or whatever you want to call it. And so if I'm at positive expectations slash belief, either of those emotions, I'm still pretty high up on the scale. This scale goes from 1 to 22. I'm at 4. I'm pretty high up. But if I'm trying to manifest something that is up at number 1, where it is joy, empowerment, freedom, those types of emotions, I still might not be able to accept that flow. I still might be in resistance of that flow because I am only at positive expectation belief. I'm still in a good place, but I still want to come up to enthusiasm, eagerness, happiness. And once I'm there, I want to get up to passion. And once I'm there, I want to get up to freedom, love, appreciation, joy, empowerment, right? Hope that makes sense. So under positive expectation belief, we have optimism, then hopefulness, then contentment, then boredom, pessimism, then frustration, irritation, and impatience, those 3 together, overwhelmment, disappointment. So now we can see that we're getting into more negative types of emotions, right? So we've got disappointment, doubt, worry, blame, discouragement, anger, revenge, hatred or rage, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, or unworthiness. And then our last stage, which is 22, is fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness. So notice how number 1, we had empowerment and freedom. And on 22, we are the opposites, right? We are powerless and we are experiencing fear and despair. So, so many times when somebody that we know or we love, or maybe ourselves, are feeling angry and we're expressing that anger, so many times the people that are around us, or maybe we've been guilty of this ourselves in trying to help mentor somebody through a difficult time, is we try to get the person out of anger, right? That anger is not a positive emotion, that we shouldn't want to experience anger. It's not healthy. But what Abraham Hicks is saying is that, well, actually, anger is number 17 out of 22. Yeah, it's in the negative zone, and certainly you're resisting whatever it is you're trying to manifest. But listen, if you are down at depression, if you suffer from depression or sense of despair and powerlessness, then if we can get you from there to anger, you've just jumped all of those steps, which means you will feel better when you are in anger than you will when you are feeling depression and powerlessness. Now, of course, we don't want you to stay in anger. It's when you stay in any of these negative emotions for any length of time and start creating habit around them that it makes it more difficult to break these habits. And that's when we can start to have ill health come into play, as Abraham Hicks explains. Again, it's not that we're welcoming disease into our life, but that we're resisting well-being. And so in the resistance of well-being, we can't flow with wellness. And so then we end up becoming sick, right? So of course we don't want to stay in anger for any length of time, no more so than we would want to stay in boredom for any great length of time. But the truth is, if you are experiencing something way down low on the spectrum here, so like depression, then you might be listening to all these different gurus and experts, and maybe even you've seen some of my videos that are trying to help you, to inspire you in some way, and you are not resonating at all. And in fact, sometimes watching those videos or hearing those people, you actually feel so much worse about yourself because they're standing there talking about something that makes it sound so easy. And you see all these comments of other people being like, yeah, I did that and it worked in a day. And oh my God, my life has changed. And you're like, what the? Right? And you're nowhere near that because the guru or the expert or the person that happens to be on the screen, they're resonating with empowerment, appreciation, freedom, love, the top of this list, right? And they're telling you a trick to help you get to that point as well. But you've got to be close to that. Abraham Hicks says you're not in vibrational alignment with that, right? If you are experiencing passion, number 2 on the list, then yes, you can reach for love, appreciation, freedom, empowerment. But if you're experiencing anger, certainly if you're all the way down at the bottom of the list and you're experiencing depression, you are not physically able to reach that discrepancy in vibration. Not right now. You've got to work your way up. So it's like moving along the ladder, if you will, or climbing up the ladder of this emotional scale. And so it is actually one of their techniques or games, as they say. So they gave an example of, and I haven't pulled it up here for me. I'll see if I can find it if I need it. But they gave an example, and this is at the very, very end of the book, of a woman who had her father pass away. And this woman had been at her father's bedside practically day and night. And the one time that she left to go and have a shower, he passed away. And so she was experiencing horrible depression from this. And actually, I will try to find this because this is really beautiful how they bring this through. So this is how they are walking you through how you can actually move up the scale. And there's actually a few different ways that you can do this, but in this particular exercise, they're getting you to write it out for yourself. And each time that you write something, you're looking to see how you feel. Does that make me feel any better than where I was at? And if the answer is no, you kind of ditch that. And if the answer is yes, then it stays. So it's almost like you can say it to yourself, say the sentence and be like, well, no, that makes it worse. Say a different sentence. Actually, that makes it feel better. Write that sentence in, and that's moving up the scale. Now you're no longer where you were, you're one step higher. And they're basically saying that even in your roughest time, you should be able to hopefully do this if you are being consistent with yourself and gentle and loving with yourself while you do this. There's 22 steps. You should be able to cover a step a day. If you overall have been vibrating at a fairly high level, so, in around, not necessarily right up at the top with joy, but generally speaking in the positive zone, that means you generally speaking have created positive habits. And so then it's easier then to move through. So in 22 days, you should be able to go from depression to joy, right? From the bottom of the list to the top of the list. But if your tendency has been for quite some time to be in the negative zone, then it might take a couple of days for each of these jumps that we're going to do. So it might take twice the amount of time. So 44 days. So, that does sound like a lot of time, but in the grand scheme of things, if you've ever suffered with something that has brought you all the way down into despair and powerlessness and depression, for you to think that in just 22 days or even 44 days, you could be experiencing joy, that's a game changer right there. That's an absolute game changer. So their encouragement is obviously to stick with it. So I'm going to go through this example. Now, they gave a whole bunch of different ones, and I just basically grabbed one that was from each category so that we could get through this a bit quicker. So we're starting off with, let me just check on my scale here. So we're starting off with grief, right? Because this is a woman who lost her father. And So how she's feeling in the beginning, she says, every morning when I awaken, the first awareness that I have is that daddy is gone. So this is grief, right? I shouldn't have gone home to shower is guilt. The woman who was with him knew very well what was happening. She's moved up to rage. How would she like it if the shoe was on the other foot and I put her father into a coma? Revenge. She has seen many people die, and she should have warned me that it was close. Anger. This is the nurse that would have been with him and gave him his final medicine to try to ease his pain, and then he ended up slipping away. Okay. She gave him more medication than he needed just to make it easier for her. Blame. I wish I could have said goodbye. Disappointment. There are too many details to attend to, and I don't really feel like I'm doing or like doing anything. Overwhelmment. The healthcare professionals are insensitive to the families of sick and dying people. Frustration. They're more concerned about picking up the oxygen tanks than about how I feel. Irritation. It will be good to spend more time with my own family. Hopefulness. It will feel good to get back into the swing of things as at work. Positive expectation. All things considered, we have lived and are living really wonderful lives. Appreciation and love. Death is a part of life. Knowledge. I love knowing that he's in a place of utter joy and understanding. Joy. So again, each of these steps are steps that this particular woman is taking each day. So in the first day when she's feeling this unrelenting grief, that's where she's sitting down and saying, I'm just acutely aware when I wake up that he's gone. And then the next day, she's looking for another sentence that is going to make her feel just a bit better, right? And there might be, 50 tries before she gets it, right? So there literally, she may have thought of, a million other things before she landed on, I shouldn't have gone home to shower, which is guilt. And of course, guilt is one step higher than grief. Guilt is number 21. So even though we're still saying something that, somebody else would say is still very negative, right? I shouldn't have gone home to shower. And of course you don't want to stay in this place of guilt for a long period of time. But in saying that and moving into that emotion, it actually feels better than the grief emotion that you were experiencing before, right? And then when you're in that guilt, the next day to be able to move to rage, the woman who was with him knew very well what was happening. Again, this is a very negative emotion. Rage is not a place where you want to stay, but moving to that space actually makes you feel better from the emotion of guilt that you were in. So these are overall having a very positive impact on you and moving you up this emotional scale. So it's a really valuable lesson, I think, this for not just people who are experiencing, the negative aspects of emotion, but also for all of us who are trying to help other people that are experiencing the negative side of emotion, is to remember that everything that we feel has value and that it's okay to feel however we're feeling. Maybe the way that we're feeling right now in this moment is actually better than what we were feeling in the last moment. And that means we're moving through it. This should be celebrated. It should be allowed and encouraged. We shouldn't spend so much time trying to get somebody to not feel any of these negative emotions and switch right up into positive, because depending on where you're at, that is so far of a leap that it's not within their grasp. Literally, they cannot reach that vibrational rate. And so by those of us sitting there telling them that they should and giving them all the steps to do it just makes them feel worse, because they can't get there. They need to do this step perhaps before they can get to that, right? So I am a big proponent, for example, of showing gratitude for things. And it's something that I share within my group that I have, The Life You Deserve, which is a group for abuse survivors, and trying to get people to see things in a different way and to find things that they are grateful for so that you can start focusing on what it is that you want in your life. But even I neglect to remember all the time that some people are not going to be able to do that. Appreciation is at the top of the list, remember. It was number one. There are going to be a lot of people in that group. There's nearly 1,000 people in that group. A lot of them are going to be so far away from joy, empowerment, appreciation, love that they can't do it. Sure, they might sit down and they might actually go through the exercise, and they might even put in the comments and tell us what it is that they're appreciating today, but it's not helping them the way that it helps somebody else who's then in the comments talking about how this really changed everything for them, or even me using it as an example for how this really changed everything. And then that ends up fueling them feeling even worse, right? When really there's a step like this that needs to be taken, however many days it takes for this person to be able to recognize where they are emotionally and then say a sentence to be like, yes, that is how I feel, and write that down. And then when they're ready, which might not be till the next day, to actually say another sentence, say, you know what, that doesn't make me feel any better. That's about the same. Say another sentence. You know what, that makes it worse. Say another sentence. That does make me feel a bit better, without the judgment of what that other sentence is, right? Moving from grief to guilt, you could put all kinds of judgment on that and be like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling guilty. This isn't the right thing either. I'm doing this all wrong. But no, if it makes you feel better than what you were feeling, then that's exactly right. And we shouldn't get all hung up on what that emotion is, but more allow that move to inspire us to move again the next day, right? Now, what's the next best thought that I can reach for in this moment right now, right? So I do, and you will hear me talk a lot more about this because I am a big proponent of this. What's the next best thought that you can think of, right? And I think sometimes when people don't know the whole backstory of this, and when I neglect to remind people about it when I do a quick live or something, is that they don't realize that when I'm saying the next best feeling is I'm not talking about you trying to get to joy and love and appreciation, but just the next thing that you can grab onto that makes you feel that little bit better than how you were feeling. So we might be nowhere close to anything positive yet. We might be all still in the negative realm, and that is totally okay. We're moving, right? That's the point. We're moving. So now, so they remind us again that, when you really, really want something and you're thinking about your desire and feeling pleasure from the thought, then your thought vibration is now in alignment with your desire. So if you're way down in depression and you're sitting there thinking, oh God, I want to be happy again, and we know that happiness is a few steps down from the very top, you might be able to remember a time when you were happy. And so you might be able to focus on that. And that might be able to bring you up a little bit, but likely you're not going to get all the way to happiness here. But the fact that you know what you want, the fact that you know that you want to be happy, you've got a happy memory that you can go back to and remember and fully immerse yourself in, that will help inspire you along up through this emotional scale. But we need to actually remember that we're actually going through a scale, and we're only going to have the next emotion available to us because of where we're vibrating at. So to be kind to ourselves and gentle with ourselves, right? And to realize that being in the vibration of what we want, so being able to sit and remember a time when we were happy and really allow ourselves to be there again, visualize it, see what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel when you're happy. They're saying within 17 seconds of you being able to focus on something matching that vibration, then that thing you're trying to manifest becomes activated. The manifestation becomes activated. And now, as that focus becomes stronger and the vibration becomes clearer, the law of attraction kicks in and it will bring more thoughts to match. So suddenly, when you're sitting there having to focus so hard on what it was like to be happy and that memory of being happy, once you've got it and you're fully in that place where you can see, hear, and feel everything that was going on, you can feel exactly what it was like, now you're more likely to actually remember something else and something else, or a thought pops into your head, or a story, and it starts to snowball, right? And what's happening is the law of attraction is bringing more of that to you, more of this happiness in this example to you, right? And they say that it's at this point the vibration will not have much attraction power because we've only been doing it for a few seconds. But if you maintain your focus for longer, the power of the vibration will become further reaching. And if you manage to stay purely focused upon any thought for as little as 68 seconds, so just over a minute, the vibration is powerful enough that its manifestation begins. So this is basically the 22 games that they have are basically a way of bringing you into that vibration that's in alignment with what you're asking for at least 68 seconds in order for the manifestation to begin. And then, of course, with each of these games, they expect you to play the game at least daily so that you can get yourself back at that vibration, because the universe is going to respond and bring to you what it is you're manifesting. Now you've got to allow it, which means you've got to eliminate the resistance, which means you've got to be vibrating at that level, right? So let's go through the processes. So of course there's 22. We're not going to get through all of them. I only have about 18 minutes left here. So let's be kind to ourselves and we'll just pick a few. So we've talked about the very last one actually, which is moving up the emotional scale. So that one I think is pretty clear. The writing down, they do advise that you do that, especially in the beginning part, writing down those sentences that actually make you feel that little bit better, because that just has more power to it when you actually have to think it, say it, recognize how you feel with it, and then write it down. But of course, as you move through this and you get much more comfortable with this exercise, the whole goal is for you to be more attuned to your emotions at all times in your life, right? Mindfulness. And for you to be able to recognize when you are sliding out of connection with your higher self or God or source point energy or whatever you call it, and recognize that this is not in vibrational alignment with what you're asking for. So again, even if you are vibrating at passion, passion is number 2. If what you're looking to bring to you requires the alignment of empowerment of number 1, well, then you've got to recognize when you've slipped into passion and pull yourself back up into empowerment. And so as you go through an exercise like the sliding up the scale and it becomes more habit for you and easier for you to do, then it should be something that you can actually do on the fly, right? So while you're driving or while you're doing something else without the need to actually write it down, because you've gotten that good at it, right? So you can actually say, okay, I'm feeling passion right now. That's great. I'm very appreciative that I'm feeling passion, but I want to jump up to this next level over here. And appreciation is one of those things to do it. Okay, and so that is actually process 1, which they call the rampage of appreciation, which is really cute. So they say that because the vibration of appreciation is the most powerful connection between the physical you and the non-physical you, so say your higher self, this process will also put you in a position to receive even clearer guidance from your inner being. So whenever you're looking for things to appreciate, you have control over your own vibrational offering and your own point of attraction. But when you are responding to the way others seem to feel about you, you have no control. So when you are more interested in how you feel than how they feel about you, then you have control over your experience. So they recommend that you do an exercise like appreciation on your own, right? And you can go through and it can be anything, right? It can be, something right here and right now. I'm so appreciative for being part of this book club, right? And then that should be like the happiness example that I gave you. What we're looking for is for you to get so immersed in what it is that you're grateful for that all these other appreciative thoughts start coming in as well, because you've initiated the law of attraction, right? So if this moment isn't something, you're not feeling all that in the flow with appreciation, then number one, this might not be the exercise for you. You might go down to the sliding scale and do that exercise to bring you up to a certain level. But if it's just that, you know what, I'm not resonating with this right now, but I want to do this, then you can find something to be appreciative of, like your favorite pair of shoes, right? You can get them out, put them in front of you, look at them, and when you start looking at them, no doubt, if they're your favorite pair of shoes, they make you feel awesome. Maybe you just love the fact that you had the money to buy them because they were expensive. Or maybe you love how you feel when you're wearing them. You're like, yeah, any outfit looks amazing when I wear these shoes. Maybe they're like your power shoes. Like every time you put them on, you're like, I am unstoppable. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is that it brings about something in you that you're like, oh yeah, I totally love that. I want more of that. I'm going to pull those shoes out. I'm going to stare at those shoes, and I'm going to remind myself of all the reasons why I love these shoes, right? And yeah, it's materialistic. It doesn't matter. One of the big things that they point out in this book is that the reason why you want something is not what the universe is listening to. So oftentimes people tell you you've got to be coming from a place of service, right? You want to make $1 million because you're helping other people. The universe doesn't hear that part. The universe might hear, I want to help 1 million people and I want to make $1 million. But the universe isn't judging and saying, oh, you want to make $1 million? Well, that's not very spiritual. So, okay, if you're focused on the service to others part, then we'll think about making it happen. No. Abraham Hicks is saying that we are put here to manifest everything and anything that we could ever want. That process itself is spiritual. That is spirit working through us. So it doesn't matter what the why is. What matters is that the why is not in contrast with what it is that we want, like the car example that I gave in the beginning, right? That it's on point, right? So you love these shoes because it makes your butt look awesome. That's not frivolous. That's not materialistic. That's not, self-absorbed. It doesn't matter. What matters is that brings you to that point of appreciation for those shoes. And you list off as many things as possible for that item, so focused for at least 17 seconds. And the next thing you know, something else has popped in. It might be about the shoes, but it might not. It might be that, oh yeah, that's right, and I have got that handbag, or I met this person when I was wearing these shoes, or I closed that deal, or whatever, and something else jumps in. And you're holding this for 68 seconds, right? That's the appreciation. All right, I want to jump into the second process because I love this one. I have tried this one myself, but not fully in this way. And so this is actually the big one that I am going to start to implement right away. Okay. So this is called, process 2 is the magical creation box. I love this. This is very similar, in my opinion, to a dream board. Okay. So on the lid, in a conspicuous place where you can see it, you're going to write whatever is contained in this box is in capital letters. Okay. Now, you're going to search for images of things that appeal to you, right? If anything at all appeals to you, you cut it out, you put it inside the box, and say as you drop it in, whatever is contained in this box is. Okay? This can include your words as well. So sometimes we have difficulty finding an image that represents something, or we don't have time, or it's more of like a feeling rather than a thing that we want or whatever. So you can write it out on a piece of paper and put that in as well. And again, you're saying whatever is contained in this box is. So if you witness something that you would like to experience, then write a whole description of it if you want. Drop it in. And as you deliberately put things into your creation box, you will be more aware of when you are thinking about something that you would not want to experience. Because again, we want the focus to shift to what you do want to experience. And by the way, They are big proponents of us needing to have this contrast, right? How do we figure out what we do want if we haven't seen or experienced what we don't want? So this is something we can actually try to find appreciation for, are these teachable moments, if you will, that teach us what it is we do want. And then we're focusing all of our energy on what it is that we do want, right? Your relationship with this creation box will help you recognize the power your thoughts holds. I love this idea of the creation box, and hopefully you can see how that's really similar to a dream board. Of course, with the dream board, you're pinning up all of those pictures or these words, expressions, whatever, and you're putting them in a place that you can see them regularly. And of course, in the creation box, you're tucking them away in that box with the intention that everything I'm putting in this box is. But same to me, same old, same old. All right. And so the last one that I want to go through is a process 3. So this is the creative workshop. So I really like this and resonated with this one quite a bit. And again, there's 22 of them. This is just process 3, and I went through process 22. So we're only covering 4 today. Okay. So the creative workshop, they say to begin this creative workshop process, have 4 pieces of paper, and at the top of each sheet, you're going to write one of the following headings or categories. So on 1 will be my body, 2 will be my home, 3 will be my relationships, 4 will be my work. Now focus on the first topic, my body, and on your first page write, this is what I desire regarding my body. Okay? And you can write anything and everything in there. Now focus on each statement of desire that you've written about your body and write the reasons why you want those things. So for example, if you said, I want to return to my ideal body weight. So if that was the thing that you want, I want to return to my ideal body weight. Then you're adding to that for the why, right? Because I feel my best when I'm at that weight, because I'll be able to wear some of my favorite clothes, because it will be fun to shop for a new wardrobe. Okay. So they reiterate here that again, we're not doing the why because the universe is paying attention to that and is going to judge whether or not our why is sufficient enough, or if it's self-serving or selfish or whatever. No, we're saying why we want it so that we can get more clear on exactly what we want. It's for us. It's for us to be able to raise our vibration and be really feeling, right, what it feels like to be back at our ideal body weight, right? And of course, we want to hold that for 68 seconds. So by saying all of the reasons why and bringing up all of those positive feelings, yeah, I want to go shopping. I want to get new clothes. I want to feel awesome in my clothes. I want to look in the mirror and be like, mwah. All of those things, it doesn't matter how frivolous they seem. What matters is how they make you feel, and that you can hold that feeling for at least 68 seconds to bring it to fruition. Okay, and of course, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be your ideal body size, but you might wake up tomorrow and there might be something in your inbox that is like, oh my god, this looks like the perfect thing for me. I've never tried this before. This is exactly what I need. Oh my god, and it's free, or something along those lines, and it starts leading you into the direction that you need to go. Okay, why you want something defines the essence of what you want. The universe always delivers to you the vibrational essence of your desire. So again, going into detail for yourself about what the why is just helps you to clarify it for yourself, which helps to clarify your vibration, which helps the universe be able to give you what it is that you are asking. So they say we would encourage playing this game once a week for a month or so, and then once a month thereafter. Okay. Do not try to write everything you want regarding each of the 4 topics. Just write the things that are most immediate to your mind. So remember, our 4 topics were my body, my home, my relationships, my work. So sorry, I've got a tickle. So like, you might have, a honey to-do list that's like 50 pages long for your home. And while that's totally fine, knowing that you're going to go and do this every week and then you're going to drop down to monthly, you got time to put those things in. So just focus on a few things that are really like at the top of your list that you would like to focus on. So those are the processes that I wanted to go through. I just want to reiterate a couple of different things that they talk about, which is I'm just gonna have a little sip here. This is a an energy drink that I have, a natural energy drink. So I just want to reiterate. Well, actually, I don't think I've said this, so I'm not reiterating it all. I'm just saying it. They refer to these 22 games as games because they basically literally say, stop taking yourself so seriously. Like, you're here to experience joy. You experience that joy from creating your world, right? And so do it. Have fun. Play with it. That's why they call them games. So that you can sit there, like you can see, writing out how fun that would be. Even though, if you're not your ideal weight, then that means there's something that you don't want, right? You're probably overweight, and that's something that you don't want. But see how everything is focused on what it is that you do want and really raising that pleasure, right? Like, oh yeah, I want to be able to feel awesome in all my clothes, and I want to be able to go shopping for a whole new wardrobe, and like all of those things to feed off of that really great energy. It's fun, right? So have fun with this. That is like the big thing with this. Have fun with this. And the second really big point I took from this book is the power of our emotions and how we need to use them as a guidance system. So really pay attention. If you fly off the handle in anger when you were feeling quite stable and quite happy before, that is a really good indication that you are not as connected, right? There is a disconnect between what you're asking to manifest and what you're vibrating at. And that comes out in our emotional guidance system to warn us, hey, Lisa, you're not vibrating where you need to vibrate in order to attract this thing that you said you really want, right? And another thing that they say that you can use for this, looking at your emotions, is also your dreams, interpreting your dreams. And this is another one of the processes that they talk about. So interpreting your dreams in that you don't have to remember all the things that happened in your dream. You don't have to gripe over the details, but it's about how you feel. If you wake up from sleeping and you are sad or angry or depressed or in the negative zone, then that's a really good indication that you are vibrating at that lower frequency, if you will. Not that they use higher and lower, but you're vibrating out of kilter. You are not in sync with what you're trying to bring to you. And so if there is any hint whatsoever that you are focusing on any of the negative stuff in relation to what you're trying to manifest, then those two things have gone out. They are in stark contrast of each other, and you are going to be manifesting the thing that you are vibrating in the most relation to, which is that negative thing. So again, with that car scenario in the beginning of this, right? You want a new car because your old car is a piece of junk. You feel embarrassed. It breaks down all the time. It's costing you money. You hate it. Those two things don't match. So you've put out the request for both of them. And if that's what you are focusing on, that's your reason for why you want the new car, then you might be waking up from your dreams and feeling in the negative spectrum. You might be many times throughout your day feeling like your mood is shifting and you're feeling negative or things like that, because these are all warning signs from your emotional guidance system to say, hey, you're going to manifest the thing you don't want. Snap out of it. Take control over here. Let's go back to this and focus on what it is we do want. We want this new car because we'll feel awesome driving it. We're going to look amazing in this. I can see myself with the windows down, the top off. My hair is blowing in the wind. I feel fabulous. Every time I even look at the car, never mind get in the car, I feel I am successful. Right? I feel like everybody that sees me driving the car is like, oh, she knows what she's doing. She's successful. Right? Like, it doesn't matter if that's actually the truth. If anybody looking at the car is going to be thinking anything like that at all, it doesn't matter that that seems very self-indulgent or that anything like that. What matters is that your emotion has been brought all the way up. You are feeling it like if it is truth, right? And that is where your energy is at. And that vehicle is going to come to you, and you are going to be able to allow the flow because you have no resistance. You've gotten clear on the I want and got rid of the what I don't want. I hope that that helps. I hope that you enjoyed that. This is our last time doing the book club on Facebook. So I have put the link in the notes here for you to go and join this book club for free. And that is lifelikeyoumeanit.com/book-club. And it's a completely free service. It's just I'm moving it on to Zoom from our next book club onwards. So in 6 weeks' time, whichever book, I haven't decided yet, whichever book we are going to be reading, instead of me going live on Facebook so that anybody can join in whether they're registered or not, we will be moving to Zoom. So what you will get from registering is that, of course, you'll get a reminder email before we go onto Zoom. But then, of course, you'll also get the Zoom video into your inbox. And since we're not doing this live on Facebook anymore, there'll be no access to finding this book club on Facebook, on YouTube, or any other platform, because it will be solely available to people that have registered for the free book club. So get on in there, register today, and I can't wait to see you on Zoom for our next one. Bye.